Good evening. Today is Wednesday, November 12th, 2014. Welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting. Please join the school committee in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now is time for public input. Is there anybody from the public who would like to address the school committee this evening?
I would like to, if that's sure.
Just state your name and your school, please, for the record. Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Sadie McNeil. I'm 17 years old. I go to Southbridge High School. Just wanted to start off by saying what a great year we've had. I've personally had as a senior at Southbridge High. I'm part of student council. Of 50 seniors and me, including myself, we made a card for our principal. It was a picture of the school in the front of it, and it gave directions for her to turn the card, and then when she opened it, it said, "Wasn't it cool turning the school into something great?" Also, I'm one of the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients too, so that's great. I'm nervous. I haven't done this
You're doing a
before,
great job.
filling in for Cam.
You're doing a
So I decided I would prepare myself by watching a couple of the older school committee meetings to see how you guys go about things here. And in the last meeting, I just thought that there were a few stories that I thought you guys should know about. In our open house, on the day of our open house, brought my grandmother in. It was like one of the first open houses she's ever been to, so it was exciting for me. My principal was addressing the crowd, how our school year is going, everything like that, and she likes this motto that she says to be nice, because nobody wants to be in an environment where people are mean. And I guess you could say some people think that being nice is kind of childish, but I just thought it was weird that when I looked over, the superintendent and the short guy that she's always with, they were laughing at what she was saying. And my grandmother, she asked me specifically who those people were, and I only know who the...
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I believe we're getting into an area that I realize that the person at the microphone is not aware of that,
yeah.
but I know that we need to
Yes.
stop that.
Thank you. This is an
right now.
improper forum for a comment, against an employee here at this time. If you'd like to speak afterward to a member of the school committee, specifically me, that would be fine. But it's improper to, we don't accept criticism of the employees when you're at the podium.
Okay.
And I know
well-
you're unaware of that, so.
No, yeah, that's not a problem. Can I say the other thing? I won't finish that story. I have a different...
If it doesn't have anything to do with a complaint against a district employee, you may.
Not necessarily. It's just... Sorry, I was really completely unaware that we wouldn't
That's
be
okay.
able to do that. Just pretty much that, a couple kids, they come up to me and they tell me about things that are going on. And I think they tell me that because last year I spoke out when the senator was here. But a couple kids, they mentioned how Miss Levister said that she and a couple of people
Madam
from...
Chair?
Yeah. Again, I would ask you to refrain from mentioning or criticizing those public employees.
Okay, Dr. Page, is there anything that you can do to help me continue talking? I mean, it's freedom of speech. I'm a child, 17.
The
As I
chair
said-
is correct in this case.
As I said, you are welcome to speak to me after the meeting. I'd be happy to speak to you regarding
Okay.
your concerns.
No, it's fine. Yeah, if you guys don't let me speak, I'll just speak to somebody else about it. Thank
The
you.
proper forum would be to the person who is responsible for the employee. So For example, the school committee's responsible for the superintendent, the principals are responsible for the staffs in their buildings, so that would be the proper forum to address concerns that you have.
But if I'm addressing the concerns and you guys are the school committee,
That's
why wouldn't I
correct.
be able
However,
to-
it is improper to discuss, and we have district policies regarding discussing, complaining about employees in a public forum.
Okay, it's not a problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to address the school committee this evening? Seeing none, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:35 PM. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mrs. Congdon?
Present?
Mr. Lebo?
Present.
Dr. Page?
Present.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mrs. Quinney?
Present.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
All present?
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. The regular school committee meeting minutes of October 28, 2014 were disseminated late. I don't believe school committee has had an opportunity to review those minutes since they were sent out about an hour and a half ago. So I'm going to postpone a vote on those minutes until our next meeting. So we will vote to approve the joint town council school committee meeting minutes of October 30th, 2014. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Abrahamson. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Congdon. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Mrs. Quinney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the town council meeting on Monday, there was a request made that these meeting minutes be made available. Can we ensure that that will happen? Will it be?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you, that is all.
As soon as we approve them, we'll forward them on.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call on the minute to approve the joint town council school committee meeting minutes of October 30th, 2014?
Mr. Lebo?
Abstain.
Dr. Page?
Yes.
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes?
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Under chairperson's announcements, I just want to let the public know that on November 5th, there was a council of the whole budget meeting held at the Central Services Building. The committee discussed the 2014 budget, the FY 2014 budget, so the year end for that, reviewed the FY 15 budget, and began to prepare for the fiscal year 2016 budget process. So we're at a unique time in the school year when you're looking at 3 budgets at once. This year, the committee would like to establish operating budget guidelines to provide a new framework for preparation of the budget, which specifically would include a discussion of priorities before a discussion of the numbers. We think that's very important. What are our goals? Where do we want to be? And how do we make this budget drive what we want to happen in the district? So I just wanted to make everybody aware that that meeting took place. We would hope in the near future we'll have another meeting after consultation with the town council regarding the budget timeline for the town, just to let you know. But to that end also, there will be a regional forum on the Educational Foundation budget and minimum local contribution, also known as Chapter 70 funds, on Thursday, November 20th at Wachusett Regional High School. Municipal and school district leaders have been invited to meet with members of the Department of Elementary Education, the Elementary and Secondary Education, the Department of Revenue, and the chair of the Foundation Budget Study Commission. This was something that was talked about at the Mass Association of School Committee conference this weekend. Very important because they are looking at the formula for Chapter 70 funding and will be making recommendations to either alter that funding, keep the funding the same. So hopefully, some members of the school committee will be able to attend. As of now, I do plan to attend, and I hope that some of my colleagues are able to join me. I took a look at the district website today, and there's a lot happening between now and Thanksgiving in the district. There are parent-teacher conferences, coffee socials, parent luncheons, the National Junior Honor Society induction, which is on November 18th, a behavior intervention parent training, November 19th. Lots of good things happening in our schools, and I would encourage families that are able to access the district calendar either on the website or through their smartphones to look up the dates because it does have up-to-date information about all these activities. November 22nd, I don't know if everybody's heard about this, but there's an event called the Big Old Turkey Bowl. This is something that was the brainchild of Town Council Chair Sean Moriarty. It will take place at 6:30 PM at McMahon Field, and this is a flag football game featuring the town of Southbridge elected officials versus the town of Webster elected officials, both town side and school side. Mr. Olivo, Mrs. Congdon, and Mrs. Quinney have volunteered to represent the school committee. I'm sorry, and Dr. Page.
Sorry,
Were you a
I was
late
late.
addition?
Late-
You're a late addition
late
to the
addition, but
roster?
I'm all in.
Okay, great. And just to let the public know, this is a public event. Everybody's encouraged to attend. It should be a good show. If you are planning to attend, Counselor Moriarty asked that you bring a canned good or a new unwrapped toy. The food will be donated to Food Share, and the toys will be donated to Toys for Tots. So I wanted to make you aware of that. And as far as the school committee business, on November 25th, our next meeting, we plan to honor those students who scored advanced in both the English and Math Spring 2014 MCAS exams. We'll be honoring them. We'll have a little reception prior to the meeting at 6:30, with the meeting to follow at 7. That concludes my announcements this evening. On the next agenda item is reports. So we have a report of the Student Advisory Committee. Saudi, do you have a report?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The National Honor Society, they're participating in the following activities. They do after-school tutoring, which takes place every Tuesday and Thursday after school, and it's open to any middle or high school student. They will also be donating 3 Thanksgiving baskets to 3 needy families in the building, and they're working with the guidance department and the school social worker to identify the families who will benefit from the donations the most. The families will be notified, and baskets will be delivered before Thanksgiving break. Student Council, we're going to be doing the bell ringing for Salvation Army, and that will start December 1st at Shaw's in Sturbridge. The proceeds will benefit families in Sturbridge, Charlton, and Southbridge. We're also holding the middle school dance Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. We're starting our can and coat drive. So if you have any extras, we please urge you to donate. Last year we got 90 coats, so this year we're reaching for an extra 10, totaling at 100. And the next 2 weeks will be busy with the Thanksgiving rally and/or festivities.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is school committee reports. A report of the curriculum subcommittee. Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is no report. However, our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, November 19th. That's a week from tonight. Wednesday, November 19th, 6:30 p.m., room M115, and the agenda will be posted over the next few days. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And do you have anything on the ad hoc committee for the superintendent evaluation?
There is no report, and there is no meeting scheduled at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. For the negotiations subcommittee, Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had our first meeting and set ground rules. The next meeting with negotiating with the custodian and maintenance union will be November 20th. That is all.
Thank you. And how about a report of the SPED PAC liaison?
The next meeting of the SPED PAC will be November 20th, and that will be a training at 6 o'clock, not a training, excuse me, an informational session regarding in-home behavioral therapies. If you'd like information on that, please come to room M100 on November 20th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Congdon, Family and Community Engagement?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee met on Monday, November 3rd. Members present were myself, Mr. Abrahamson, and Mr. Levo. Others in attendance were community member Mr. William Bishop. Our first item on the agenda was a vote to approve the minutes of October 6th. All were in favor to approve those. Our second item was discussion regarding the month of November being Parent Volunteer and Family Literacy Month. During that time, we stated that no member of the administration had attended the meeting, therefore we couldn't create any initiatives regarding Parent Volunteer and Family Literacy Month. We stated that the library was doing a lot of good programs relative to the month of November. Our next item on the agenda was discussion regarding objectives of the FACE subcommittee. Mr. Abrahamson had asked that this item be put on the agenda. We stated that the school committee was being too prescriptive to the schools. Mr. Abrahamson stated that He felt that the family and community engagement portion could be part of the superintendent's report because every educator is being evaluated on family and community engagement. We, at the same time, are evaluating the superintendent on this issue. We should keep this subcommittee, we felt, but however, we don't need to meet unless there is something that needs extra funds or extra attention. We stated that we wanted to hear how music advances student learning and how it affects the students, but we didn't want student displays. It doesn't show student learning or preparedness. The community ought to see what is going on in the schools. It should be presented to the community through the district. The student awards should be displayed on cable television, not during school committee meetings. Mr. Olivo's understanding was that we were here to facilitate the community engagement. Mrs. Congdon stated that it was a tough subcommittee. It was only created a couple of years ago, and the district could use us as a resource. Discussion should be held with the superintendent regarding fire department, community, police, and see how these funds are being utilized. The overall recommendation was that the Family and Community Engagement Subcommittee could meet on an as-needed basis. If there was something that came up that needed funding or help, then the subcommittee would get together to meet, and otherwise, that family and community engagement would be part of the evaluation process of the superintendent. During member open forum, the committee noted that Charlton Street School and the middle high school had Facebook pages, and it was nice to see what was going on in these schools. And then we again discussed that we would only meet as needed, and that the other scheduled family and community engagement meetings were canceled. The meeting adjourned at 6:52. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Congdon. Do you also have a report on the school committee student advisory committee?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I met with the advisor, Mr. Carrero, this morning, and we discussed future agenda items. We won't be meeting this month due to the student council being busy with preparations for Thanksgiving. Our next meeting is set for December 17th at 7 a.m. at the middle school, high school. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say December 17th?
Yes.
Thank you.
December 17th at 7 a.m.
Thank you very much. And now I can report on policy. We had a meeting on November 5th. The committee discussed a recommendation from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees regarding the selection of arbitrators, changes in the state's bid law, bid and procurement law, a revision to the background checks policy, the newly enacted domestic violence leave policy, or proposed newly enacted domestic violence leave law, I should say, policy development, adoption, and implementation and review. The proposed policies that resulted from that meeting will be introduced at the next school committee meeting. The next policy subcommittee meeting is scheduled for December 3rd, but in fact may be changed to December 10th, depending on the availability of the parties, and I will consult with the policy subcommittee members on that, so I will report the exact date at the next meeting. Thank you. And now we have presentations. So this evening, we're pleased to be joined by Eastford Road School principal and staff, Mary Skripczak. Ms. Skripczak, welcome. Ms. Skripczak is here to report on Eastford Road School. I don't know if you want to introduce your coworkers too. Thank you for coming.
So I'll start by introducing myself, Mary Beth Skripczak, principal of Eastford Road School. I'm very fortunate to have a supportive staff here with me tonight. We have Ms. Rebecca Trahan, kindergarten teacher, Ms. Lynn Cody, the administrative assistant, Ms. Susan Frabata, kindergarten teacher, Ms. Donna Wayman, kindergarten teacher, and Mr. Anthony O'Coin, the guidance counselor. So, thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to present tonight. As I said, Eastford Road has been off to a great start. Our students and staff have been working very, very hard. As I stated earlier, I have a very supportive staff. They've supported me since day one. I'm very thankful for. We've been working really hard to communicate with the community and do a lot of outreach. And I'm very honored to be representing Eastford Road School here tonight. I just want to start with a few words about our instructional focus. We've been attending the Focus on Results, and every school has an instructional focus. For Eastford Road School, we're focusing on early literacy skills, and our goal is that The majority of our students, 75 to 80% of our students, are reading before they leave Eastford Road School, and that the remainder of our students make noticeable gains or improvements within their band. That being said, everything we're doing at Eastford Road School is based on our accelerated improvement plan. And the 4 areas, I just want to touch on each of them tonight and report on areas that we're trying to improve and show growth and make progress in that improvement plan. As you know, we don't have MCAS testing at Eastford Road School, but we do a number of assessments. So one of the ones that we do 3 times a year is called the DIBELS. It's Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. And you're going to see in our first slideshow presentation some of the data that we've collected as a result of that assessment. Also in this first slideshow presentation, you're going to see some data about some of our outreach events, our orientation, our open houses, and parent volunteers. So. It is, okay. So in addition to data collection, we are also focusing on curriculum for our part of the Accelerated Improvement Plan. As you know, we have adopted the National Geographic Reach for Reading program. So the staff in October spent a full day in training and staff development on the program and implementing it with fidelity. Also, we have recently adopted the OWL, the Open the World of Reading, reading program for preschool, and they just had their professional development day this past Friday on November 7th. So the next slideshow, if you will, is going to be about implementing the Reach for Reading with Fidelity, part of our professional development day, and student engagement. And the next part of our accelerated improvement plan is community outreach and parent involvement to enhance student learning. We held a month-long Hispanic Heritage Month from mid-September to mid-October, and our culminating event for that was a parade in mid-October where each classroom focused their studies on a different aspect of Hispanic heritage. I'd like to thank all the parents that came out for support for that. We had a wonderful turnout, as well as some school committee members and every administrator from the district administration. So here's a little snippet of that.
So far, that makes 8 olays.
I was mine on fire. I was so on fire, feeling hot, hot, hot. All the people here with almost feeling hot, hot, hot.
I'm hot under the collar.
Oh, what to do on a night like this? Is it sweet? Elmo can't resist.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Elmo needs a party soon. A fun, little charm. Boom, 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 boom. Woo! Yeah, boom, 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 boom. Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
And finally, I just have some highlights of what we've done since the beginning of the year, more additional outreach to increase community involvement and improve the school culture. So some things we've done to improve school culture: we've had Spirit Days at Eastford Road, we've had School Colors Day, Red and White Day, Crazy Hair Day, and we've also done the fire prevention program, the food drive, we had a family luncheon. You're going to see slideshows of parent volunteers and also recognition of student attendance. And probably the best part of this next selection is our music teacher, Mr. Kim. He is in the background playing, and he's accompanied by our students singing.
I don't care what they're going to say.
there any questions?
Does anybody have any questions, comments? Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Skripczak. As your presentation was going on, I wrote down the last 5 years I've had a student at Eastford Road School. And a lot of great things have happened in those 5 years, and I think this year, the culture and the tone in that building is unbelievably positive. I think it's been tremendous to see a change in that culture and walking through the door and how welcoming it is. And going in, I've always said for the past 4 years that this building should just be filled with joy. These are our littlest kids. This is our entrance into our school district. People should walk through the doors and be happy. And this year, I can say every day that I've walked into that building, that is the sentiment that the parents bringing their kids in certainly exude, as does the staff, and that is in no small part due to you and your leadership and the support that I know that you've given the team and the teachers in that building. And I think that that should definitely be recognized. I think we have a lot of wonderful things going on, and we've had a lot of good things going on for many years, but to be able to see that all come together under your leadership has been tremendous. So I think I'd like to thank you very much for all that you've done, and your staff has done a tremendous job. I've been going to Feeling Big literacy nights and math nights for lots of years, and they're tremendous experiences for the community, and I would encourage parents of children in that building to really take advantage of those opportunities, because they are tremendous nights. When my daughter came home from my youngest, from her Feeling Big literacy night, they asked questions, did they tell this story, and what about this? And so they remember those things, and that's tremendous. And to see such a positive culture in that building and truly walking through the doors and feeling the joy in the building is tremendous. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I know leadership is an important part, but I couldn't do it without the support I have from administration here. I couldn't do it without the support that I have from my teachers. They work so hard. I can't even tell you how hard they work, and especially the support from the families that I've received. I've been very fortunate to be in this district 20 years, and I'm very, very proud and honored to be representing Eastford Road. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for acknowledging that.
Is there anybody? Oh, Kara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Skripczak. I know a lot of you personally, you've all seen my children come through Eastford Road as well. And like Mrs. Quinney, my experience has always been second to none. And your teachers there always stand out, not because of what they do necessarily, but because of who they are. And because of who they are, it just automatically translates into how the kids in that building learn. And even if you're an outsider and you've never ever stepped foot in Eastford Road School, but if you saw your presentation tonight, just by looking at that slide presentation, it is very evident. I was kind of like writing things down as it went on of how engaged the kids are. And not only the kids, but the faculty, on their knees digging out pumpkins. It's a hands-on thing. It's very evident that those kids are supported. And that's huge. If they feel that somebody is actually paying attention, sees that they care, wants to engage with them and be supportive of them, that was clearly evident by their smiles. Every picture you saw, you see the parents smiling, you see the kids smiling. And the biggest part of all is that, like Mrs. Quinney said, we realize the ARP is our most important focus, and learning has to be our first priority. But your staff has a way of making learning fun, and it needs to be at that age level. So not only is it just it's not a free-for-all, it's fun, but learning is taking place. And the goals that you have set and established and have achieved need to be commended by all of you in that building. So thank you all very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is any other school committee member? Can I?
That's all right.
Joe,
Thank you,
please.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair. Through you to Ms. Skripczak. I feel very strongly about Eastford Road School, and I know I've said it many times. I think this is the most, not that any other school isn't important, but I think that this pre-KK school is the most important school in our district in regards to engaging parents and making them aware and just getting them to jump on board for the Southbridge Public Schools. I think it's a make it or break it school in regards to parents. and getting them involved in their child's education. So my question is, what systems are in place right now when the parents step through the door to make them aware of the expectations for them?
Well, as I said, we've just completed our focus on results, our instructional focus. So we have that now posted in every classroom. We took down our old instructional focus just last week. I've been in contact with the principal from the high school and hoping that some of the art students could come down from the middle and high school and actually paint our focus, our student-friendly focus on the wall. We've also have that up in every classroom, so not only the instructional focus, but the student-friendly one. I just started sending home last month a monthly newsletter. Let me think what else. But I make every effort to be out there in the morning just greeting parents and greeting students when they come off the bus. I try to be a very visible presence in the school every day. I'm always out and about. I'm sorry? Okay, yeah. So I've been having coffee socials once a month. We have a luncheon once a month. I was just going to kind of throw this in at the end later on, just kind of upcoming things. We're holding a family night every month. So our first one was a literacy night. Our next one is going to be November 19th, which is behavior intervention. That's not going to be a night for families. It's going to be a night for training for parents. We actually have a guest speaker, Jeffrey Danforth, PhD. He's a licensed clinical psychologist, and he will be coming in and speaking to parents. Parents are welcome to bring their children, but we are going to take the children and do activities like learning-based activities in the classroom around social skills while he is speaking with all the families and the adults. And he will explain strategies to develop and improve children's behavior at home. Another big focus that we're working on is PBIS. We also acknowledge weekly student behavior. We have a big push on attendance because it's critical at this age if we start them now. I know Mr. O'Coin is busy in his office. He stays many hours after that he's not required to stay to actually contact those homes and let them know that it is valuable for children to be in school. I'm trying to think of any other outreach. But yeah, please stay tuned because we're going to have something monthly.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your hard work, to you and all of your staff.
Anybody else? Dr. Beach?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Gripsack. So you're talking about a lot of these programs and so forth, but in terms of, so I'm curious to see what kind of data are you going to be generating in terms of, you're doing DIBELS testing 3 times a year. Can you give us an indication of sort of where are we now or where have we been in the past? And you mentioned something about a 75 to 80% sort of reading rate by the time they leave Eastford Road. Well, where are we now in that context? And in terms of attendance, sort of maybe a little bit of data in terms of what are the attendance rates and what are the issues and how are we going to measure whether we're making an impact in those areas?
Okay, so the DIBELS assessment there's the benchmark assessment that we do 3 times a year. It's fall, winter, and spring. So that was administered in mid-September. And we were really focused on there are 6 different indicators of DIBELS, but we're only focusing on 2 at this point because of our students' ability. So the first one we focused on was letter naming fluency. So what that is an assessment in 1 minute time period where students are just randomly naming letters and identifying letters. And the second indicator that they were assessed on this past September is first sound fluency. So if I gave you the word cat, you would need to know that it started with k. And then the data is collected. We had, I'm not going to freeze the slide, but 61 of our students, out of 182 students tested, 61 of those were labeled at risk. And at risk means that they are at risk for reading failure. We had, I don't have the number here, but 8%, actually, yes, I do, 15 students were in yellow, so that's some risk. And then the green, which is at grade level or at benchmark or proficient for this time of year, we had 97 students. So our kindergarten students actually came in pretty strong. And what happens with our at-risk students, we have tiered intervention groups for them. The children who are in the yellow with some risk, they receive an additional small group intervention in the classroom. Our children who scored 3 or below, and there's many reasons why they could score a 0. They could be shy, it could be a language barrier, they could just be very nervous, and it's a 1-minute snapshot of your life in probably the second week of school. So think about how you would feel on your first assessment, and not really knowing who the assessor is either. So we've had people come in and assess the students. So the next benchmark assessment will be given in January, and we will assess the same, but just like they were assessed now, that score is going to be expected to go up. So they may be required right now to know 10 sounds, but by January, that score would be 30. And I don't have it in front of me what it is by the end of the year. But we are upping the ante every time we give that assessment. And to make sure that our children are staying on track and our interventions are working and the support we're giving them inside and outside of the classroom, we have progress monitoring, which is happening every 2 weeks. So for those at-risk students who are at risk for reading failure, not only are they getting, we call it, doses, so kind of like a doctor, but they're getting the first dose in the classroom, so that is access to the general curriculum that all students are accessing with the classroom teacher. Their second dose would be a smaller group, again in the classroom, but either in a small group with the teacher or in a small group with an educational assistant. And for those real at-risk students, they are in a pull-out group of anywhere from 4 to 7 students. So it could be a group of 5, it could be a group of 7, depending on what skill level they're at. And then they just have a real focused time of learning for about 20, 25 minutes a day that they're getting that intervention in their specific area that they need the support. After 2 weeks, they're going to be progress monitored. Once they have 3 scores at or above at the benchmark, then they will be exited from that tier. And this past, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday, we administered our third 2-week assessment, and we exited 22 of those 61 students. And of the 61, of the remaining 38-ish that have not exited, all their scores did in fact improve. So they are not as low as they were, but some have moved up to the yellow. And then what we're doing for the rest of the students is now we're going to take that next bottom tier, and starting Monday, they're going to start receiving their intervention and support. So those children will be monitored every 2 weeks just to make sure that that progress is maintained.
Okay. Thank you.
That was kind of lengthy, but I hope it answered it.
Did you have something, Chris? Go ahead.
I just had one question. Through you, Madam Chair, to you, Ms. Skripczak. I too know a majority of you and worked with you in the past, and it's a pleasure to see you guys here tonight and to see the success that Eastford Road School is having. I really enjoyed the slides. However, just for the future, I would have liked to have some of those stats that Dr. Page was talking about right in front of us.
Okay.
It would have been more helpful.
I probably should.
The slides were fun and kept us in tune, but it would have been nice just to have that stuff in front of us, so just for future references. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Ms.
you.
Gardner.
I'll be brief. Southbridge Public Schools has found itself in times of turmoil too many times, but I have to say, especially to the 5 people standing behind you, last year I had the opportunity to spend time with you and to see you all work, to see Anthony step up to take over the leadership of that school. And I believe my proudest moment of looking back is that children never knew there was an issue, ever, not one day. And I think parents didn't know there was an issue. I mean, obviously, when someone's not there, you sort of, but I think that you were fantastic. Lynn Cody was, I can't even say how important you were during that time to know where things were and tell, I spent a lot of time there, Aaron Osborne spent a lot of time there to tell us what time lunch was. And But I really want to say that last year, you did the right thing. And again, I can't say enough that when children don't know that there's an issue, they don't know a bomb's going off around them, you're doing a very fantastic thing in difficult times. And I wanted to say that publicly. I think I said it to many of you last year, but it's worth saying again. And so I think that this year, adding Mary was, as far as I'm concerned, the final piece of what you're doing. And it is wonderful to come there. And, I just thank you for sticking with it last year through some really difficult times and for really always taking the high road. The high road's harder than making other choices that may seem easier or may seem more popular. But, you all just kept your mouths closed and you kept doing the right thing. And I am very grateful to you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abrahamson?
Just want to say wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
And through you, Madam Chair, to my colleagues, this is listed as Eastford Road School Student Spotlight, which it certainly was, and it's been on the agenda. So I do hope that if you require any data of people who are coming here, that you inform them ahead of time. We don't want to focus on anything they don't have when they weren't told to bring it. And so I just want to say a job well done and thank you.
Thank you. And just a couple of next steps we're working on. We've just finalized the development of our new kindergarten standards-based report card, and that will be going home trimesters 3 times this year. We're also in the process of making a benchmark assessment for math, so similar to that DIBELS that we do 3 times a year, now we'll have one for math as well. And we'd like to do the same thing that we do with the DIBELS, figure out some intervention groups and help children with math as well. And we're working on refining our school improvement plan with the school council. And I think I already said the 2 upcoming events, the parent training, and then we have a luncheon at the end of the month. And in closing, I just wanted to mention 2 other things. Over the summer, I completed the NAEYC annual report, and that's been submitted, and our accreditation has been maintained. And also, the grant that I wrote this summer, the Quality Full Day Kindergarten Grant, has also, we were recently notified that grant has also been awarded to us. So,
Mrs.
Thank you.
Quinney? I think Mrs. Quinney had an additional
Thank you.
question.
Through you to Ms. Gribsack. I just had a question. I know you said that there's a new kindergarten progress note that'll be coming home. Is the preschool still going to be utilizing the Teaching Strategies Gold in
Yes,
its extended form?
both preschool and kindergarten are still going to be using that, but just baby steps we're trying to work on now that we have an established reading program for preschool. That our next meeting, actually scheduled for tomorrow, is we're going to start taking a look at assessments and what kind of common assessments do we want to do with preschool students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I just want to say that I know NAEYC accreditation in particular is very hard to get, and
Yes.
that the grant that you referred to is also a competitive grant that's difficult to get, so thank you for doing that. My home is very near Eastford Road School, and I remember when I was looking at the house, one of the things that sold me on it was the laughter I could hear coming from the playground, and I just thought that was the nicest sound in the world, and made me sad that I just had to put my storm windows up, and my windows aren't open because I don't hear that every day now, but sometimes I just go stick my head outside to hear it. It's very nice, and I appreciate all the work that everybody's doing. I have a soft spot for Eastford Road School. I have a soft spot for all the schools, been there, but Eastford Road School is a great school, and thank you for everything, sincerely, all of you.
Thank you for the opportunity tonight, and again, thank you to my very supportive staff and the administration and the school committee. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure representing the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda are donations of iPads and dental supplies from the Southbridge Sped Pack. So, Ms. Pate, I don't know if you want to.
No, I would just like to say thank you to Leanne Pate. She's going to come up and talk a little bit more about what they are. I think we have a great program in this district for students with disabilities. I don't have children, I have dogs, they're not going to college. But I think parents with children with disabilities have a much different life or lifestyle sometimes than if you have children that are not disabled. And we have some people in this town that are just campaigners and champions of our students with disabilities. And Ms. Pate is one of those too, and we're very grateful for all that you do and all that you've done, so.
Good evening. The Sped Pack, if you remember, you guys accepted our donation that was through the Southbridge Eagles, and that is what we purchased the iPads with, for the kids. So with that, we bought 2 iPads for the Charlton Street School, 1 iPad for West Street. I had 3 dental offices give us toothbrushes, toothpaste, floss, and mouthwash, which is for your kids. The little guys aren't getting mouthwash. So we sorted it out for the little guys and for the high school kids. And then for life skills for your school, we have cookie mix, cake mix, which was personally donated by me and my partner, because I've had the pleasure to have Life Skills do events for us, and I love those guys. Kevin's my buddy. So with that, this is for the schools. We still have a $50 donation from Walmart in Sturbridge. We have a $50 donation from Walmart in Oxford. And we're waiting to hear on a couple more that have to go through corporate offices. So we're waiting to see if we get accepted for them. And with Principal Skripczak, I kind of got last minute on her, so we're going to get her stuff also, because we were lucky to raise, I want to say about $1,300 with the Yankee Candle fundraiser, which was profit. And it's still going on up until December, so we can continue to raise more money with that and get more stuff. So hopefully that's what the PAC will continue to do, fundraise, and in turn, send it to the schools to help alleviate some of the cost that the school district doesn't need to really provide if we can get it for them, either by donation or by fundraising. You know, let's help out a little bit. Hopefully it'll continue again next year, and so on and so forth. You know, even if we're not here or we are here. So with that, if your principals would like, when they leave, take your stuff. I have it all nicely packed for you guys. Cute little things for the little guys to sing when they're brushing their teeth. For the older guys, they'll learn the importance of brushing, what it means to have germs in your mouth. So,
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Anything for Ms. Pate? Mrs. Quinney?
I just wanted to say thank you. The dentists that donated were Dr. Anthony DiMatteo, Dr. Olga Restrepo, and Dr. Young Lee. And thank you to the Sped Pack for their work in ensuring that things that kind of are above and beyond the academic needs of our students, that we're able to supplement them and get those needs met. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Just for people that may be unaware, why iPads? How are the iPads used in the settings that you purchase them for?
It depends
How would they be used?
who it's being used for. It can be used as a reward for children that have behavioral issues. So if they're doing really well, their reward is to play on the iPad. That's the incentive to keep the good behavior going. In cases like my son, who's nonverbal, there's programs that they can use to help them speak and communicate their need. So with that, that's the biggest component for iPads, for the autistic kids to be able to communicate their needs. I think it would vary on who's using it and for what in the school, but mainly it's to help reinforce good behavior and to help express what they need by using that.
Thank you very much.
You're
Anybody
welcome.
else? I'm sorry. Oh, Mrs. Donovan, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just a quick question and then a comment. The question that I had was relative to the technology, to the iPad specifically. and I'm not even sure if it's for you, Leanne, or maybe it would be better to ask this of the superintendent. Can those iPads be tied into the district's technology system, or are they separate entities on their own?
They can be tied in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate has already set them up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
For the schools, prior to the donation, so
Okay.
that they're ready to go.
All right. And I just wanted to thank you. You've always been a tremendous advocate for the kids, and you're out there always doing all the legwork, and you never take any credit. But credit needs to be given where credit is due, and you truly deserve to be thanked for all the hard work that you do on the outside that nobody sees for the benefit of everybody. So thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leanne. The next item on the agenda was the donation of football equipment. That just has been postponed to a future meeting. We're waiting for some additional information, but we're happy to add that to the agenda once we receive the requested information. So there is no report of the finance director, which would have been agenda item number 10. So now we move to agenda item number 11, report of the superintendent.
Thank you,
Ms.
Madam
Gardner.
Chair. Couple of things. This week at our district leadership team meeting, we met with Chief Charette from the Police Department and Chief DeFranzo from the Fire Department. And I think one of our biggest goals is safety, and I've said that many times. And so they met with all of our principals, our district office staff, to talk about ways that we will partner with them, some trainings that we're going to do, just to make sure that our students are as safe as possible in all of our schools. And again, this morning, Mr. Solzak and I met with the chief and Lieutenant Dean Gay just to go over some additional ideas that we have for just maintaining safety and planning ahead and being prepared for things that every school district hopes never happens to their district. But planning, obviously, is the key to anything. So that's a dialogue that we've opened up. I would like to say this week I was at the Memorial Day program at Charlton Street. Veterans Day, I'm sorry. Veterans Day program. It was absolutely incredible. The program was just wonderful. I mean, it was so well done. And to have 500 kids participate and to have it go off without a hitch was a marvel to look at. But that's always the fun days when I get to go be with kids. And finally, last week I was at a conference for MASC and MASS and got some great information, got to talk to some superintendents from other places, school committee members, and it was a great learning experience. And that's what I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to agenda item number 12, which is school committee actions.
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Abrahamson?
Madam Chair, I ask unanimous consent that the third readings of items A, B, and C under school committee actions be waived, and that each of those policies be adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Abrahamson. Mr. Abrahamson has proposed that agenda items A, B, and C be addressed through unanimous consent. Is there any objection to those? For the public's knowledge, agenda items A, B, and C are third readings and policy adoptions of the consent agenda, the meeting agenda, and agenda format. Seeing no objection, the third reading is waived, and policies B, E, D, B, A, consent agenda, B, E, D, B, meeting agenda, and file B, E, D, B-E, agenda format are hereby adopted by unanimous consent of the school committee. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 12D. This would be the, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I ask that unanimous consent that items D and E under school committee actions be ratified.
Thank you. Mrs. Quinney is requesting by unanimous consent that agenda items D and 12D and 12E, which are ratification of the memorandum of agreement between the Southbridge School Committee and the Southbridge Education Association number 2, and the memorandum of agreement between Southbridge School Committee and the Southbridge Education Association number 3, be ratified by unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Seeing none, memorandums of agreement number 2 and number 3 are hereby ratified by unanimous consent of the Southbridge School Committee. There's no unfinished business this evening. Agenda item number 14 is new business. The next regular school committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 25th, 2014, at 7 p.m. in council chambers. We'll be moving to the Tuesday evening. Again, we will be honoring MCAS, those students who achieved both an advanced score in English and Math MCAS that evening, with a reception at 6:30, meeting to be held at 7. And now it's time for a member forum. Is there any member who would like to speak? I know that there's, several members went to the MASC conference and can give a report, but the floor is open. Anybody? Bueller, anybody? Mr. Abrahamson.
I have two items, Madam Chair. I initially had one. Madam Chair, first, I must commend my colleague, Dr. Page, who appears to be the go-to person on this committee for advice on message communication. It's a unique interpretation of community engagement to act as a conduit for concerns of various members of school personnel and other community members. I'm sure we will all look forward to seeing how this develops further. Second, Madam Chair, on Monday, I had the privilege of attending the Veterans Day program at Charlton Street School. It was an excellent opportunity to witness firsthand the school-wide effort to engage members of the community. As a spectator sitting in the bleachers, I was able to speak informally with some parents and other caregivers who understand the importance of just being there for their children. The exchange of smiles between the children and those special adults when the kids saw that they were there was priceless. Perhaps in the future, more children and their parents can share such a special moment. After the program, I was able to share a few thoughts with Representative Peter Durant, who came to speak briefly to the children and offer words of encouragement. And through you, I thank Representative Durant for coming to Southbridge in support of our children. Finally, Madam Chair, the connection of student learning in this special event to their lives' reality was exemplary. Congratulations to Charlton Street School Principal Bill Latoy and all of the students, teachers, and staff for modeling community outreach as it is meant to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other member who would like to address, would like to speak? Anybody who would like to? Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll talk about the conference and just inform everybody about the courses I took, that I did have the opportunity to attend the MASC conference. The classes I took were Strategic Leadership, Data First, Helping High-Risk Teens Return to the Classroom, Coaching, Enhancing Skills Across a Lifetime, and Looking for a Leader. Thoughts that I wanted to share were from Strategic Leadership. It was the superintendent and his school committee chair from Wallingford, Connecticut, that spoke. He talked about how the superintendent was the instructional leader for the school district, how he had worked hard to prepare his board and inform them. He would send them updates every week so everybody was on the same page and they could answer and field questions in the community. And he also spoke about their strategic plan and how they had developed 3 years' worth of budgets, and how he had engaged local CFOs from the community to come in and kind of critique the budget to give them better ideas on how to utilize funding. Another course was, just a brief overview, was on Data First and how effective school committee use of data, how data is always used but not necessarily understood. The course discussed how data can be presented so that the public can quickly and clearly understand and see it. The instructor said that what gets measured usually and talked about on a regular basis has a better chance of getting done. So set your standards and goals around this to be able to measure it. The other course I took was Helping High-Risk Teens to Return to the Classroom. In this course, they said about 50% of kids with mental illness will drop out of school. Many don't need SPED, but they end up in it. So return students that return from having mental illness issues or being hospitalized have a high risk of relapse. The transition program that they spoke of is a short-term service for students returning to high school after an extended absence due to illness or hospitalization. The transition program helps students and their families with re-entry and reintegration to school by supporting their academic, social, and emotional needs, tailored to the individual's unique set of needs as he or she transitions to a full schedule. Program participation usually lasts up to 8 weeks. The goal is to facilitate a seamless and manageable re-entry that supports the students and families, minimizing stress and encouraging academic and social success at school. There are about 20 schools that had this program, most of them in and around Boston. The other course I took was coaching. It spoke about effective coaches in the classroom. They mentioned elements of an effective coach, that sometimes a coach can either make or break you. Elements of an effective coaching session would be feedback is specific, given in a timely manner, prioritizing tasks, action-oriented, holding the coachee accountable, feedback by stating the positive first, clear milestones related to overall skill development plan, balances directive and reflective behaviors appropriate to skill and style, provides information in a way that matches coachee's learning need, builds timely follow-up check-ins, obtains aligned agreement, and deepens coachee's trust in coach. Trust is built over time. Everyone in your life that you trust, most people, it's built over time. Most people that you trust, you've known for a long period of time. The last was looking for a leader. It questioned what the district needs were and asked if the right leader was in place for your district. The class explained the process of finding the right leader for your district and highlighted the process of a search and what the proper protocol for one was. A common theme was leadership and trust. The keynote speaker for the conference was Herman Boone, and his speech, a highlight that I thought was that he mentioned, when you ask teachers what they teach, a good answer would be, I teach children. I teach human beings. Often, some adults in these children's lives are absent, or some children are left to fend for themselves. Teachers play such an important role to step into their lives. They notice them. They praise them. They teach human beings. Parents are their children's first teachers, but teachers are the key to a child's education. Herman Boone read us a poem by an author unknown that really made me think and reflect on why I ran to be a part of this board to make a difference in this district for all of the children in our community. So I just wanted to share it. The poem is called It Matters to Me. As I walked along the seashore, this young boy greeted me. He was tossing stranded starfish back to the deep blue sea. I said, tell me why you bother, why you waste your time this way. There's 1 million stranded starfish. Does it matter anyway? And he said, it matters to this one. It deserves a chance to grow. It matters to this one. I can't save them all, I know. But it matters to this one. I'll return it to the sea. It matters to this one, and it matters to me. I walked into the shelter. The owner greeted me. She was helping Misty learn to trust. She was struggling, I could see. I said, tell me why you bother, why you waste your time this way. Misty's only one of thousands. Does it matter anyway? And she said, it matters to this one. She deserves a chance to grow. It matters to this one. I can't save them all, I know. But it matters to this one. I'll help her be what she can be. It matters to this one, and it matters to me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like Mrs. Congdon, I just wanted to talk briefly on what I had attended at the MASC conference. The MASC conference was very informative to me, and also, we talk about our teachers and our administrators needing professional development. And I look at this conference as a way for school committee members to receive professional development, to talk about there are people represented all over the state that were there. So you get a feel for what other people are going through, what people are doing right, what people are doing wrong. And by engaging in these classes and hearing professionals who do this day in, day out, there's a lot that you can gain from them. Like Mrs. Congdon, I did attend the class on strategic leadership, and the biggest thing that I took away on that is we can never, not enough, focus on our assets and looking at what our assets are and what we need, and prioritizing and remain focused on the best educational opportunity for our kids. And one of the greatest things that I wanted to propose to our acting finance director when we start looking at the budget is the presenter had specific line items that either had an M or an S. And an M were issues that were mandated by the state, and the S stood for safety and security initiatives. And I think that's crucial, although, like Ms. Gardner just said, we want to keep our kids safe, but when you actually see it in a budget and you have an S next to it and you know the relevance and the importance of it, I think it makes a huge difference. So that's something that I took away from that and really wanted to see next time, or as we begin our budget sessions. Herman Boone, one thing Ms. Congdon, I didn't know if she was going to say who he was. In case you don't know who he is, he's the real-life coach in the movie Remember the Titans. Denzel Washington actually played his character in the movie, but he is an African-American man who was brought into a white community to coach football, and at that time it was in the 1960s, so there was a lot of racial issues going on, and it was his job to make everybody get along. And so, although his presentation or his speech was about building and sustaining winning teams, it was not specifically relevant to football. And what I wanted to just say is that a lot of the stuff that he spoke about was important to me. And the first thing was about the definition of the word team. And for him, or now for me, that a team is a group of people with one vision, one objective, and one heartbeat. And if you don't have that, or you have 2 out of the 3, or 1 out of the 3, you don't have a team. So we need a group of people with one vision, one objective, one heartbeat, everybody doing the same thing, getting the same message out, being consistent. And that's something that we absolutely need to do. The other thing is, we all are dealing with today's youth. And one thing that hit home for me is when you start changing people's attitude, that's when learning actually takes place. So we need to kind of break those barriers, that we need to focus in on our youth, see what their needs are, see what they're going to need for the future, and change our attitudes so that we can learn what we need to do to make a better difference in their lives. Not easy, obviously. It's going to take a lot of hard work. But again, why we're all here is there's a great, big, changing, diverse world that waits outside of our classrooms and our schools. And we need to make sure that we take every positive opportunity and every challenge to do our best for those kids and make them as best and as well prepared as we can. He gave a little dialogue about a centipede, but the bottom line of that little story was, we cannot sit on the sidelines tying our shoes. And I think that's very important. What we do here is we need to be active participants. We can't sit back and watch and wait for somebody else to do it. The third thing that I attended was a leadership luncheon. It was run by the Commissioner Tom Weber, and he talked about early education and care, so I got a lot of information relative to that. The next thing I attended was school foundations. And that was to either help us either start or expand efforts to get an educational foundation for our schools. Now, a lot of our surrounding districts have those, and they use the funds to supplement things that the budget cannot sustain. And I know there is a phenomenal group of people out in the community who have been meeting on a regular basis to try to establish this education foundation. So I will be reaching out to them. I received a lot of information relative to mission statements. There's a lot of forms that you need to fill out relative to establishing a 501c3 nonprofit organization and things like that. So I brought all that information back with me so that I can pass that along. The next presentation that I attended was media and working with the media. And basically, they really focused on the newspaper. And a lot of these small towns, that's how the information gets out. So it's important that we build positive experiences and relationships with our newspapers and with our editors so that the right, correct, proper information can get out there. And basically, we learned how to work with the media to not only deal with public crises, but I learned how to build a master communication plan for our district, and that's very crucial. This is absolutely a public relations board, and all that goes on in our schools, hits the media. So we need to make sure that we're establishing protocols and doing things the right way. The next class that I attended was Teaching Forward, involving effective technology and integration in our schools. The presenter was from Burlington, and they off the charts with what they do. They have every student in their building has an iPad, so it's one-on-one. They're a Google Classroom, they're a Google Applications district. It was like right over my head about all the wonderful things that they're doing. Doesn't mean that we can't eventually work to get there someday. But it was just an eye-opening experience about device selection and really learning how technology can engage students and transform the way our students are learning in our classrooms. Last two things that I attended was the role of the chair, which pretty much speaks for itself. And then the last thing that I attended was a student visions luncheon. And they had a panel of 6 students. Two of the students were from Wareham Public Schools, and the other 4 were from Cape Cod. But basically, they just talked about their experiences as high school kids and what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what is their overall environment like, do they feel prepared for college, what concerns do they have for the future, what do they need to succeed. So although it was more relevant to their life down on near the Cape, it certainly is absolutely applicable here, because the issues that they feel they are experiencing there, no doubt our kids here are feeling the same thing. So I just found that very, very worthwhile. And again, it's just something that I can keep in the back of my mind of, as we move along, things that we need to do better. That is all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Quinney, did you have anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also attended the conference. The first speaker I heard on Thursday was Doug Stone, who's a professor at Harvard. He talked about difficult conversations and the challenge in communication. We teach people how to give feedback, but we don't teach anyone how to receive feedback. And the difference between what somebody says and their intent and how we interpret things. He was fairly interesting. Not quite as interesting as Herman Boone, however. I also attended strategic use of financial data analysis, and that went over the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's Edwin system and how you can use it to compare districts by a variety of things: demographics, size, student achievement, all sorts of different things. And they kind of went through how to use, it's called Edwin. So how to use Edwin and how to access that information on their website. I also attended labor relations, collaboration, communication, and commitment to student achievement. That talked a lot, it was presenters from Fitchburg, and they went through IBB, and now they're on their second round of IBB training with 7 different unions and how that process played out for them. And the key factors in that was how they set up their committee, and they go through a finance committee and negotiating contracts. So there was a lot of interesting information that I'm sure would bore you all. I also attended Understanding School Budgets and Fiduciary Responsibilities. There was a lot of really good information that I took out of that. One of the key pieces of information, I think, Ms. McLaughlin touched on the foundation's budget formula that they use, and they're looking to change that formula. The formula that's currently utilized uses teachers at a bachelor's rate. At this time, teachers must have their master's degree, and there's a significant difference between a first-year teacher that has a bachelor's degree versus a teacher that has a master's degree in pay. And using a 10 years ago, 20 years ago, pay rate for a teacher who had just had a bachelor's is compounds itself if you figure how many teachers we have in the district and how that impacts our actual budget. So they're looking at figuring out how to set a new formula in order to assess the budget, in order to ensure that the needs of students are being met. That was one of that big pieces. I also attended collective bargaining for student achievement, which again talked about different strategies that different towns have used in order to focus on student achievement and moving collective bargaining away from necessarily sheerly being focused on finances, but on what the district needs. One of the ways that they had set up a budget in the fiduciary responsibilities, that a particular town had not an AIP, but another district plan, district improvement plan, and that was the first step in their setting of their budget, was their AIP, followed by their school improvement plans added to that, and then on top of that, heads of athletics, food service, those sorts of things, and what they thought that they would need moving forward. And regarding collective bargaining for student achievement, setting up what your goals are and how you could achieve those goals for student achievement in the collective bargaining meetings. I attended the talk about Herman Boone's discussion, as well as a training on difficult people in the room, which was stellar and rather apropos, one might say. And I also attended, during lunches and different discussions, I met a woman from Westminster, I want to say, and they were talking about school choice and how that's impacting their community and the negative impact that that has on them, and funding programs that they'd like to be able to fund, but when money's going out, it's hard to build programs within the town. I talked to her for a long time and got the number of advocacy group called Citizens for Public Schools, who apparently are focusing on school choice and how that's impacting local school districts and how it's negative impact on students in classrooms at this time. So I think those were all of the things that I attended. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I just would, very briefly, because a lot of the panels that my colleagues went to, I had an opportunity to visit as well. In addition to, I went to a school law forum, which was right up my alley. It was really, really interesting. And they talked about just recent cases in school law, specifically a case in Lexington, which may end up being a game changer in the state of Massachusetts for how our cases are arbitrated going forward. Very, very interesting. I took back some information that I will share with my colleagues. I apologize, I have not had time to write up my notes. On Thursday, I was at an Early Education and Care Children's Trust Conference, learning about the science of happiness and social and emotional development, which really was very, very interesting. And then I went to the MASC conference from there. That Herman Boone spoke, and his presentation was really quite astounding. And then after he spoke, he left rather abruptly, and we were all kind of disappointed that we weren't able to talk to him or get pictures or autographs or whatever people wanted to do. And we were told that the reason he didn't stay and had to leave right away is before he spoke, he learned that his daughter had passed away. I cannot even believe that he gave a speech, but that just, he was professional and composed, even in the middle of a deep crisis like that. And that was a lesson that I think we can all take from his speech, as well as the amazing words that he said to us. So I'd like to close on that note. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, there's no executive session tonight, I'm sorry. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
in the spirit of the science of happiness, I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Second? Seconded by Mrs. Congdon. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned at 8:52. Show of hands, please. I'm sorry. Show of hands for the formality. Thank you, Mrs. Quinn.